Hey guys, so this is here Laszlo, who is like a mental photographer. He runs a page called Fine Mental Photography, which is very awesome, and you have to actually follow it. And you can just go to Facebook and search for it, and you will see like awesome, cool pictures of mentals from all around the world. So today we actually want to interview him, and we have a few questions which we actually like to ask him. So the one of the questions is like, first, Laszlo, just give us like a brief intro of about yourself itself.
So hello guys, thank you for your invitation, Nevin. I'm Laszlo Kupi from Hungary. I'm exploration geologist and also graduated as a photographer. Quite a few years ago, I started my career in photography of minerals, which is a very special case of photography, a very special area of photography, where not only your equipment or your photography skill uh, counts, but also you need to have a knowledge about your topic, the minerals itself,
Yeah,
and it's a very interesting and also enthusiastic part of photography in general.
that's great. That's great, Laszlo. So coming to my next question, like what is the spark which drives you for your passion for mental photography?
So actually, I started collecting minerals since I know my mind, since I was probably 2 or 3 years old. And my grandfather was a miner and a mineral collector as well. So I
Hmm.
grew up in front of his cabinet and I knew the mineral names since my childhood. And I decided to be a geologist later. And of course, as a passionate photographer,
Hmm.
I decided to try this very special area of photography. And there are some people who I like to follow their works and they are inspiring me. Like, I don't want to say names, but who are interested in photography or in minerals, they all know these names.
Yeah, okay, that's great. So coming to my next question, like, do you have any favorite picture which you really love out of all those pictures which you have taken?
Since we last met and last spoke, I've actually started to photograph a collection which is not public, and there are some very special and very beautiful minerals. Are really amazed me. Also from my collection, like a little bit
Yeah, I can see it
of the
from here. Like,
specimens are behind me. So I quite like small specimens because the small details are hidden for the naked eyes. You can magnify it, and
yeah,
you can visualize them, and
yeah.
it's very challenging, but also very nice.
Interesting to act. It is like a challenge for the photographer itself, like to capture the
Absolutely,
minute
yes,
details and giving it
yes,
to the eye,
yes,
right?
yes.
That
In a
is
high format or in a high resolution, you can see, especially in a good display, you can see all the small details which make the photo sparkling.
that is great. That is great. So, like in your career as a mental photographer, like what are the like any group of mentals which is like tough to take in
There are
photography?
some, yes, there are some. For example, tourmalines they
Mm.
are so colorful, but in the meantime, they're just really challenging to photograph because the backlight and the front light, in a very good combination or very good balance is hard to make.
Mm.
Also, some minerals are pretty hard to give the colors back, like the dioptase or the emeralds.
Mm.
Those green colors are pretty hard
Very hard
to
to
get it back on the photo. Yes.
that's a good information. So, the other question is like an interesting question, like any unforgettable incidents in your journey as a mental photographer? Like,
Well, actually, hopefully not many, but not many accidents
no,
or
yeah,
incidents, but
I didn't ask for any accident. I just say like unforgettable, good one, also bad.
unforgettable moments. I definitely have some. Um, for example, yeah, once I almost fall my one of my favorite specimen, and it was actually, they are on some acrylic stands, and
Okay.
they hot glued on them. And
Mm.
to remove this hot glue, you used to sink them into some alcohol, and
Okay.
these alcohol are dissolving this hot glue. But once it happened that one specimen which has been repaired, and I didn't know the alcohol dissolved the glue
Glue
from it.
with it.
And I found it in half an hour later in 2 parts, and they got a heart attack. I thought that it was my fault, but finally it came out that it wasn't. So yeah, that
That
was really, really tough moment.
for sure. Like it's even many people, like I think most of the mineral collectors, like specifically like they everyone has an incident where they drop their mineral off and they always regret any one thing. Because I was speaking with many mineral collectors and always everyone has said, like most of them like like their own personal experience, they have dropped their own collection. So it's like we have to be very careful in handling
Absolutely,
our
absolutely. It
minerals.
needs a lot of patience and carefulness. And to be fair, if it happens with my collection, okay, I wouldn't be happy, but I accept somehow.
Yeah,
But
yeah,
for someone else's piece,
that is
like
very
it worth 10,000 or hundred thousands of dollars or euros, it would be really tough. So
yeah.
therefore, you need a very good insurance if
So
you do it
anyone who's
for
watching
someone
this,
else.
so for anyone who's watching this video, please make sure to be so careful in handling all the minerals, especially the other people's collection. So you have to be really careful in doing it. So yeah.
So true.
Me too. So the next question is like, any perks of being like a mineral photographer? Do you think, like, do you have any perks, like advantages of being a mineral photographer?
Well, yeah, it's a very good question because there are not so many people doing this segment of photography,
Yeah.
and there are some advantages and also in the meantime some disadvantages. For
Mm.
example, if you want to be a mineral photographer, you need to have skills for photography and the minerals in the same time,
Yeah.
which could be a good background for your career.
Mm.
But to be only a photographer, it's probably not enough because you don't know what to photograph on the mineral, what to emphasize, what
Mm.
characteristic is for that mineral, or you don't know how to choose the good position, for example.
Mm.
So that's that only need to, or only possible if you're interested in minerals.
Yeah.
So that's, for example, for a normal photographer, is a challenge. It's kind of a skill you need to improve by the time. And in the meantime, it's very good because you can have a connection to the mineral collector. So that's absolutely a good advantage of being a mineral photographer. You can build up your collection quickly because you have a good connection to the collectors, the
Yeah.
dealers, to other photographers. So you can improve yourself quite quickly.
Is there any like sorry, is there any like on so some people collect minerals and they don't show it publicly. They have it for a private collection. Have you been able to have a
Yes.
chance of like going and photographing those minerals which are not
only
actually?
only through other people, only
Yeah,
through
public.
their acquaintances. If you are advised by someone else, you can
Mm.
have a chance. But first of all, you need to provide quality pictures. You need to
Yeah.
do it you need to do your work properly and
You need to become a pro before like
extraordinary.
actually people calling
Absolutely,
you
yes,
and recommending you.
yes,
Like Laszlo is a great
yes.
photographer. You should have him
The
hire.
recommendation is the most easy. Well, it's not an easy, but most useful advertisement from someone else.
Mm, yeah, for sure, for sure. So then the next question is like, do you have any people you look up to? So yeah, it's like I'm sure that
There are some, of
yeah,
course, yes.
and
Some main collectors or very famous collection. There are some specimens I'd really love to photograph, but they are mostly in private collections or museums.
so actually my next question is the same thing. Like would you mind like traveling around the world to take pictures of certain vendors which you love to do, or like uh, it's like I have to actually take this is my one of a like a your goal, like to take picture of this mineral or something like that.
Yes, absolutely. My answer is absolutely yes. First of all, I got used to it because as an exploration geologist, I'm traveling all around the world all my life.
Mm.
And as a photographer, sometimes I need to travel to get the picture taken on site rather than being the specimen sent to me,
Mm.
because during the delivery damage can happen. But
Yeah.
if I go there and if I photograph there, of course the damage will
It'll be
be
much
minimized.
more easier for it'll
Yes.
be easy for
Yes.
you, and yeah, that's great, that's great.
Yeah.
So my next question is like, what mineral was your first, like what was the first mineral you photographed? So
The very first, it's a good question. Probably one of the self-collected minerals
Hmm.
uh, from my hometown or close to. It's actually pegmatite quartz with feldspar. I think that was the first, and mainly my grandfather's collection, old collection.
That's great. I actually even saw that, like your old, like 10 years ago, a picture of you taking mental
Yes,
photograph,
yes.
and right now taking the same.
Yes, since quite a while I'm trying to photograph. First, I tried through the microscope, but I
Hmm.
realized it doesn't work. So I tried to read after, to look after how to do these kind of photography, contacted other photographers, get some ideas, and
Hmm.
step by step, I could build up my own style, if I can
That's
say
great.
so.
So actually, while just having this conversation, I had another question. Like,
Go ahead.
so yeah. So while you're photographing, where do you save your photos? So is it like an online?
Oh yeah, that's a very important
Yeah,
question. Yes.
that's what like came to my mind. Like, it's a very good question to ask yourself. Like,
Absolutely.
yeah.
So most of the photographers need to keep their raw files or the working files in at least two or three different places.
Mm.
So what I'm doing, for example, with my photograph, there is one stored on the computer, obviously,
Mm.
one in my NAS, like it's an external hard drive,
Fiction or
and one in the cloud.
mm.
And time by time, the most important files are also saved on a hard disk, which is stored in somewhere else, like not in my house.
So you at least recommend like 2 to 3 backups in case of any
Minimum,
emergencies. Yeah,
minimum,
anything. Yeah.
exactly. It happened to me. I
Yeah.
lost
Yeah,
quite a
data
few of
get
my
corrupted,
photos.
and you get in
Yeah,
problems. So yeah, that was my
lesson learned. So yeah, exactly.
for sure. Also, do you use any softwares for the photographers? Because most of the photographers use Lightroom, which is like an industry standard
Yes, exactly.
photography.
Well, quite a few I'm using. For example, for the raw photography, for develop my photos, I use Lightroom, or FaceOne has their own um, software for it.
Okay.
Also for Photoshop, the small retouchments. And
Mm.
because I'm stacking my photos, which means that to gain a better or a wider depth of field, one picture is taken from or stitched from at least 50 or 20, 50 different photos,
Yeah.
which means that the camera is stepping forward.
Yeah.
And because the very shallow depth of field the macro photography provides, you
Mm.
need to somehow to achieve bigger depth of field, and this is a very good method to do it. And in the future, I'm planning to buy a medium format camera, hopefully in
Okay.
the close future,
Mm.
which allows me to gain even better picture quality. And the image stacking is done by the camera itself, so it probably helps a little bit of my process
Okay.
up. And also there is a stacking
Mm.
software which is stitching the different
Yeah,
photos
yeah, yeah,
together.
yeah. So these are the softwares like you use in your daily mental photography, right?
Yes,
That's
yes.
great. Also, do you have any recommendations for the cloud storage? Is like, do you use Google Drive?
Yeah,
Or
I
many?
don't want to specify any
Okay.
because it's absolutely up to you or up to the photographer. But yeah, a cloud saving is also a one step of the saving your photos,
Like precaution measure to
storing them.
actually help you in the future, right? So yeah, that's great. That's great.
Yes.
So yeah, so do you have any tips for people who like want to enter into mineral photography, or like people like mineral collectors who actually want to show their they don't have to go to a mineral photographer probably because some not everyone has the same thing. Maybe they want to take it, try it out by themselves and do it. Do you have any tips for any like people?
Yes. First of all, photography
Yeah.
is composed by two words, photo and graphia, which are two Greek words. Photo from this is light. So
Yeah.
the most important of mineral photography is how to lighting the minerals.
Yeah.
So for example, to achieve the very smooth gradient lights, you need to use some nice softeners like what is illuminator or
Like
softening
soft
out the
lights.
lights like the yes, exactly, like softbox, for example,
Yeah. Yeah.
to avoid these burned out areas of some shiny minerals. Also, you need to use a very stable lighting. And the other point is a very strong and stable tripod, which allows you to take very stable photos without any vibrations. That's
Yeah.
very important. Also, if you want to afford, if you can afford a good camera with a good lens, go for it. But if your budget is slightly smaller, then take more attention to the lens rather than the camera, because that gives you much better final results than if you invest for a high-end camera and you
Yeah.
choose a cheaper
Like
lens
start
for it.
step by step and see how you will learn.
Yeah, exactly. A lot of small gadgets can help your work.
That's great. That's great. That's great. So do you have like an entry level setup for like an budding mineral collectors or photographers?
Nowadays, the cameras are more or less on equal level. Like an entry level camera, like a
It's really
DSLR
good for
or a
starting the.
MILC, it's very good for to start with. Yeah, a good lens, a macro lens could help you a lot.
So
A
it
good
typically depends
tripod, as I
upon like
said.
what kind of photography you want to do, like macro photography or nano.
Absolutely, yes,
So that's
exactly.
great. That's
So,
great.
for example, I'm using at least 3 different cameras, at least 8 or 9 different lenses,
Lenses.
including microscope lenses, which I'm attaching to again some really fine details of very small
That's great.
minerals. But that's not really my preferred area. There are very good micro photographers or photographers for in the micro mineral range. So they are, you know, those parts is that part of photography is even more challenging than the normal mineral
Yeah,
photography.
that's great to know. That's great. So while we are talking about photography, there's this. It may be like there's a new trend of like 3D photography. What do you think about like the 3D stuff, the VR and AR, like the new kind of
Hmm.
photography which are
Very good
emerging right now?
question. Very good question. Thank you. Well, actually, it's the future, or it's now the present, actually. So I've seen some of them, and I have an idea how to achieve that. 3D mineral photography. It's challenging. It's very challenging in terms of technology. You need a little different camera system, but I will definitely try because I'd love to see on a
Yeah, because even I can.
VR glass.
Yeah,
Yeah,
because I can even see the application where instead of just if you take like a 3D photography or a VR and AR, people can actually see and just
yeah,
rotate it and see and how they can see it, zoom in and zoom out and see like the crystal
absolutely.
structure. Some crystals like minerals show the crystal structure out in the physical appearances, like an overview of like isometric system or something like that. So it will be
I would
really good for,
absolutely
yeah, for people
like
to
it.
like
Yeah.
students or scholars or anyone who is interested in minerals, they can just uh, see this. I think that is like one of the interesting questions which will the future of how mineral photography will emerge and everything. So yeah,
Definitely.
you want to say something?
No, I'm just saying that yeah, in a certain on a certain level you can do it in 3D, but most of the minerals have their, you know, their front face, which shows you the best for the specimen.
Yeah,
But if you rotate them, the backside is probably not that interesting.
yeah,
Not in any case, because there are some exceptions, but
yeah.
for that could work is 3D definitely.
That's great. So yeah, that's the thing. These are the questions I actually want to ask you and do it. And I'm really happy to have you, like interviewing you and knowing you better and better. Like we have been friends, I think probably around a year or so, and I'm always following your page, and I really like
Thank you
your
very
work
much.
and everything. And this is like an interview which I really wanted to happen because um, most of the people, they whenever they see a mineral photo, a photo of a mineral, a very a good mineral, they appreciate the beauty of the mineral itself. But most of the time what happens is that they don't know like what are the struggles going behind, like what are the challenges a mineral photographer is having whenever they actually take the picture, which I really want to like say to all of the like the mineral community who are like loving the minerals, to show that uh, we should really appreciate the guys who are behind the pictures, which we actually love to see them. So I
Thank you
really
so much.
thank you for showing us the great side of any mineral, and thanks.
Thank you very much. Thank you, and I'm very happy. And actually, I really appreciate some special sites and people who don't forget to give the credit to the photographers, because it's like, you know, every copyright work, you
Yeah,
should think about, it's a work, it's a job. It's not,
yeah, for sure.
you know, you can find and you can just use. But of course, if I find some nice photos on the internet, I never forget to give the credit to the photographer, because that's their work. Thank you very much. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Laszlo. Thanks for the call.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thanks.